I never knew the sky could speak in silence, until it rained the day I met you. The clouds wore a melancholy smile, and each drop that fell around us was a word unsaid, a secret shared by nature itself. My heart, too dignified by duty and lineage, stumbled like a child, learning to walk for the first time. You were there, not with crowns or titles, but with eyes that saw beyond protocol, saw me. I could feel centuries pause, just so that moment could linger. The cobblestones beneath our feet didn't care who I was, nor did the rain. And in that simplicity, I was just a girl hearing the sound of her own heart for the first time. Louder than any trumpet in court, more real than any scroll of history. I watched you smile, and the air grew warmer despite the drizzle. I knew then what they never teach in palaces, that love arrives softly, like the rain, asking for nothing, offering everything. The gardens near Zarzuela had never looked so alive. Roses bowed gently under the weight of the storm, and yet it was not sadness that filled the air, it was reverence. I remember you picking a petal that had fallen, holding it like it was something sacred. That moment carved itself into my memory like marble. You said nothing, but I read your silence like poetry. There, surrounded by centuries of legacy, I felt free. You didn't treat me as royalty. You looked at me like someone who wanted to know what I dreamed about when I wasn't bound by crowns or expectations. The rainwater clung to your lashes, and I resisted the urge to wipe it away, because something in me understood this was real. Unwritten by diplomats, untouched by decree, the rain did not distinguish between peasant or princess, and in that equality I found something rare, authentic affection, untouched by ceremony, unmeasured by tradition. Just the pulse of two hearts whispering truths through glances. They warned me love could be dangerous for someone like me, not because of heartbreak, but because it teaches you to want more than you're allowed. I was raised to carry history on my back, to walk with grace even when burdened. But no one warned me that love would feel like rebellion. The way your hand brushed mine was a revolution in itself. It was like the rain applauded us, disguising the thunder in my chest. I tried to remember the protocols. I tried to remember who I was. But every time I looked at you, I remembered instead who I wanted to be. I could hear my ancestors in the quiet, some whispering caution, others urging me forward. I was born into a world shaped by legacy, but standing beside you, I felt like I could shape a world of my own. One not ruled by borders, but by the sincerity of connection. And even if our time together was as fleeting as the storm, I knew I would always carry its echo within me. Do you remember the bench beneath the willow? How we sat without speaking, letting the hush between us say everything. I traced the raindrops as they slid down the leaves, thinking they were like memories in reverse, tiny reminders of moments yet to be lived. You didn't ask me about royal decrees or diplomatic tours. You asked me about my favorite song, the last time I laughed freely, what scared me most. No one had ever asked me that. You saw the girl behind the emblem, the heartbeat behind the anthem, and that was the moment I began to fall, not like a fairy tale princess, but like a soul finally being seen. I would have given anything to stop time right then. The rain had made a mess of my hair, but you said it looked like poetry in motion. How could I not believe you? In your presence, I didn't feel like an heir to a throne. I felt like I belonged to something more eternal than any kingdom. Love, unspoken yet understood. I've read countless letters written by queens in love, words tucked in velvet drawers, hidden behind coats of arms. Now I understand their silence. They didn't lack the words, they feared the world would not understand them. I fear that too. For how can I explain the way your presence lit up shadows in me I didn't know existed? How can I describe the sacredness of a glance, the eternity tucked inside a moment when our hands nearly met? These are not matters for courtrooms or state dinners. These are truths whispered in the rain, fragile, fierce, and fleeting. And yet, as I walked back to my carriage that day, soaked and breathless, I realized something: no law can banish memory, no title can erase longing. The sky that day did not bow to any crown. It simply wept joyfully, for the birth of a feeling no scroll could contain. And I walked away not heavier, but lighter, knowing some part of me had changed forever. I was no longer just a daughter of Spain. I was a keeper of a secret storm. When I lie awake at night, the rain becomes my confidant. Its rhythm on the rooftops becomes a lullaby only you and I understand. I close my eyes, and I see your silhouette beside me, hear your voice laced with laughter and quiet fire. Sometimes I wonder if you think of me when it rains, if your world slows down, and your mind drifts back to that garden where time became irrelevant. I wonder if your fingers still remember the curve of my palm, the electric pause before touch, the gravity of restraint. My world is filled with ceremony and expectation, yet no orchestra has ever played a symphony as profound as your silence beside me. Love, I am learning, is not about possession, it's about presence, it's about how someone's memory can become your morning sun and your midnight rain. I walk among dignitaries and diplomats, smile for cameras, speak with conviction. But inside I carry the hush of your gaze, like a letter folded 1,000 times in my soul. They say a queen must guard her heart, lock it away behind reason and duty. But no vault can hold a feeling as powerful as this. You are not my scandal, you are my sanctuary. In a world of scripted dialogues and practiced poise, you are my unscripted truth. There are days when I stand before mirrors framed in gold, wearing crowns crafted by centuries. But my reflection feels incomplete without the echo of your presence. I see a sovereign, yes, but beneath that I see a girl who fell in love during a storm. A girl who whispered her first real truth in the rain. I have learned to speak in many tongues of diplomacy, of tradition, of history. But the language we created together was wordless and pure. No translator could ever render its meaning. That language lives in the rustle of leaves, the hush before thunder, the memory of damp fingertips brushing mine. And though I cannot say it aloud before the world, know this, you are my hidden anthem, my whispered rain. The world will never know the weight of what we shared. Not because it was secret, but because it was sacred. In my royal diaries I will write of wars and treaties, banquets and speeches. But in the spaces between lines, in the blank margins, you will live. In every pause for reflection, in every moment of personal growth, it will be you. You are the reason I now understand strength differently. Before I thought it meant standing tall and unshaken. But you taught me that true strength is found in vulnerability, in admitting the power of a feeling so deep it shakes the very foundation of who you thought you were. I walk among kings, but my soul remembers a boy beneath a willow tree, laughing in the rain. You made me feel something no coronation ever did, chosen, not by blood, but by bond. I may never be able to stand beside you in public, but know this, my private allegiance has already been sworn. Not to a flag, but to a memory. Sometimes I imagine what our lives might have been if fate had been kinder. If I were not born into a castle, but into a village where our hands could intertwine without consequence. Where I could wake beside you, not to servants and schedules, but to sunlight and soft conversation. Perhaps we would live near the sea, where the rain is saltier, but the freedom sweeter. I would not need titles to feel valuable, your love would be enough, but wishing does not rewrite reality. I know that, still even in my highest tower, I feel your presence. I see you in the morning mist, in the way birds take flight, in the sudden hush before rain falls. Love has not left me, it has merely changed form, it is no longer two hands held, it is the way I breathe. The way I walk into every room with quiet grace, carrying the weight of something beautiful and invisible. You are no longer just someone I met. You are part of who I am becoming. You were the chapter I wasn't supposed to read, but did. And now no matter how many pages I turn, your words remain etched in the margins. I speak to kings, but dream of you. I sign decrees, but ache for letters, written in your hand. The crown may rest on my head, but it is your memory that rests on my heart. One day I will lead a nation, I will give speeches that history may remember. But long after the applause fades, and the pages yellow with time, I will remember the rain. I will remember the way you looked at me, not as a royal but as a girl with rain in her hair, and stars in her eyes. And in that remembrance, I will find courage. The courage to rule with empathy, to speak not just from duty, but from love. And if I must choose between being remembered as a monarch, or as a woman who once loved truly, I will choose the latter. Because love, even whispered in the rain, echoes forever.